you told me about your background, right? So, I mean, I'm sure everyone that's listening, they're following you for a reason, right? So they already know that your background's in accounting and you're a CFO, right? So you understand for those that don't know, and I don't want to minimize it by any means, but this is layperson's understanding of how the process works. Accounting does reconcilable of past, CFOs looking future, right? So it's important to have both.
Way to put it.
And so cash flow projections are so important, not only for your day-to-day operations within your business, but in order for you to be fundamentally ready for any type of financing. Because when you sit down in front of a bank, and this is someone coming from an alternative lending company, banks are still, you should be your first stop. Go there and see how far you can get with your banking relationship, because we're best case scenario, you don't need any funding. You bootstrap it, you get yourself to a profitable stance, and then you exceed from there. God bless you if that happens to you, but it probably won't. Most people who start a business, they are really, really, really great at what you do. We call them functional operators, right? They're really, really great at the profession that they got into business to do, but they're not necessarily good business owners, and those of you who can't relate to that because you don't want to accept the truth in that statement. Think about it like I'm an athlete, right? Former athlete. I grew up, in sports. Just because I was really great at the sport I played doesn't mean I'd be a good coach, right? Because you have to understand the entire game and the entirety of all the roles that it takes in a team sport to succeed. And that has a lot to do with how you perform as a business leader. And the faster you figure that out, the more capable you are in building a team around you, like a Natasha, like an Ashley, to help you formulate those plans that fill in the gaps where you just don't know, because there's always something that you don't know as much as someone else does. And so it's cliche, but we say, do what you do best and then outsource the rest. If you're not hiring internally, outsource it to people outside, because the faster you do that, the less money you're going to spend in hiring someone to clean up your mess. And so there are things, day one, hire a CPA, have someone that understands government contracting that is doing accounting for you. It could be a bookkeeper. Bookkeepers do a great job, especially in the beginning. But so often I talk to businesses that are handling QuickBooks on their own. QuickBooks is a data repository. You give it bull crap information, all it's going to do is take it and spit out bull crap reports. And then you're going to take those reports and you're going to give it to someone that you need to give you funding. And they're going to be like, none of this makes any sense. It's not going to fix it for you. It's not going to be like, excuse me, Miss Moon, the information that you've given us is incorrect. Like, if you can find a QuickBooks software that does that for you, then let me know. Because I've got about 5,000 people that I've talked to over the last 5 years to be like, sign me up. So I'm not meaning to minimize it, right? It is just what it is. And I think we try so hard to cut corners so we can save money. And all it does in the long run is you end up spending more money to clean up the mess that you made because you were doing something that you didn't know enough about to do to run it on your own. And so I think CPA, day one, bookkeeper, right? That understands government contracting, day one. You have your FEIN number, you get a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Have someone else do it for you. And it probably shouldn't be your mom or your sister.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We also have to push on the concept that it has to be someone that is familiar with DCAA, familiar with government contracting. There are tons of accounting companies, but do they understand how the government operates? Do they understand how your chart of accounts should be? Do they understand what an indirect rate? Can they provide you the information that you need as a government contractor so that you can get through audits? So just be very
how can you what? And I imagine it's probably the same answer, as the SBA will accept the financial documents for the 8-day program, right? So that is the hurdle in all of my however many years, 15 now almost, that during the 8-day process, contractors are like ripping their hair out. because the financials are in the wrong format or something isn't right, right? So even, you know, when it comes to capital, when it comes to things that are verifying your finances anyway, whether it's bonding, insurance, those are very, very important. So I've definitely seen firsthand the most experienced of companies have inaccurate financial reports, and those that are experienced in looking at those reports in the government will be able to point that out for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, the 80-day is probably an exception to the rule because they have stipulations. I mean, people that I've invited to come into this conversation that are listening right now that might not be, I know people who follow you guys know this because I'm sure you talk about it often because that's what you help people with. But in order to be 8A certified, you got to hit certain qualifications, right? And one of it is potential for success.
Yes.
And your ability to access credit, i.e., working capital to perform on the business that you will be able to win by utilizing this facility, right? This vehicle in order to get involved at a deeper level with whatever it is that your proficiencies are. Your potential for success is going to be reliant on your ability to gain access to working capital. And it isn't like really, it doesn't like flashing lights, eat at Joe's jump out to people very often because they're just unaware that that's what the process is. They think, well, hey, if I win a contract, I'm going to go to the bank and the bank's going to be like, all right, let's go. It doesn't work that way. The banks don't always understand government contracting or the ebb and flow of the way that it works. And this isn't knocking banks. We work with banks. As a matter of fact, they're our closest allies and our closest partners. But there is a level to which that you can qualify for a bank loan, and there is a limit to which they can work with you based off of your risk. And government contracting is deemed risky in terms of lending because of the ebb and flow of the way that the industry works. We've got a lot of stops and starts. We've got government shutdowns. We've got continued resolutions yearly. We've got delays on contract starts. We've got people who put all of their eggs in one basket and don't diversify in getting multiple contracts across several agencies. They work with one contracting officer, and that's where all of their business is coming from. Well, what happens when that contracting officer retires or goes somewhere else? I just talked to an Ostabu today that's not going to be at the agency anymore. He's moving somewhere else in 2 weeks. I was making an introduction. Holy cow, what if that is the only person that you know, right? So there are so many things that come into play, so many reasons why they need people like the both of you to advocate on their behalf so that you can help them navigate that. And I think that financing is very, very, very black and white. And a lot of what helps you get to the level that you need to be based off of where you are in your life cycle of your business is based off of your preparation of your financial records. Well, plain and simple, you know, because I've seen, like you said, I've seen very successful companies have books that are out of whack, and it's very difficult for them to obtain bank financing that way. So then they have to go the alternative realm. And no matter which you choose, because there are lots to choose from, it's more expensive than a bank, and you might not get someone that understands government contracting. So you've automatically put yourself at a profit deficit because you've got something that's an additional expense that's weighing in on your ability to do the work that you do. So I think people take for granted that they need to be more prepared. If you're willing to put together a business plan, you need to be willing to put together a financial plan too. And you need help to do that. I mean, there are not many people who are equipped with that type of knowledge base to be able to say that they know how to do that. I mean, the CEO of our company, probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met, started a contractor after 30 years in the Air Force, went into the reserves, and started a contractor after he went into the reserves. And he tells the story of being told no by 12 banks when he was starting his company. I was like, is that even possible? Where are 12 banks? And he's like, you keep getting told no, you move on to the next, move on to the next. But you know, how defeating is that? And then did tours over to the Middle East while he's trying to start this and get all this done. So the stress of being a business owner compounded on the stress of knowing every aspect of being a business owner, you have to find partners that can come in and teach you how to be a good business owner, because it isn't just something you're born with. It's not a natural ability.
It is not. I'm learning every single day. It never ends. But to your point, let me talk about that for a moment, because you touched on something. Well, actually, you kind of breezed right by it, but I wanted to know more. You mentioned business plan, right? I have seen more since COVID and more since, all these YouTube channels popped up trying to make an alternative living. Nobody has a business plan anymore. So how important is that even to get financing? Like, you can't, I didn't ever go for capital and they didn't ask me to see evidence of my plan.
Banks are absolutely going to ask you for it. You're not going to go to an alternative lender and then heavily rely on that, right? Because they understand that, there are other things that have taken precedent to it. And that's probably why you're coming to them at that point, which isn't a great thing either, because what people don't realize is that bank financing is not even going to be available to you until 18, 24, 36 or further months of doing business profitably, right? You have to show sustainable growth to gain access to a lending platform at your bank. So, you need to be building these from day one. Your business plan should incorporate your financial budget and plan in there as well. And you're probably going to need help to do that. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. Why would you not put together a five-year business plan so that you have benchmarks to gauge whether or not you're doing well? So you can either keep doing what you're doing if you're doing well, or stop doing what you're doing and pivot, do something else, right? And so
absolutely,
some of the smartest business people I've ever talked to, they are 6, 10, 12 years projected out with their business plans. I mean, that blows my mind, right? And I'm learning how to do that now in the role that I play with our company, is putting together a business plan of what the trajectory of my portion of the organization looks like. And so I can take my experience now and share that. But as a business owner, you're neglecting a huge part of your ability to be successful if you're not putting together some type of a business plan. And Apex accelerators, individuals like yourselves with your businesses, Natasha and Ashley both can sit down, I'm sure, and do business plans for you from multiple levels. I mean, and so it might cost you a little upfront, but it'll save you a lot of headache in the back end for things that you didn't forecast, just like you do for cash flow. If you're not forecasting business issues and challenges and hurdles, you're just maybe not ready to be a business owner. And that's why so many businesses don't make it to the 5-year mark, which is like the benchmark of success. They don't make it over that because they never see the light of 5 years, because they run into so many issues prior to that, and
they're not looking 5 years ahead either. Right. They're looking about today.
3 months.
Yeah, 3. I need to win a contract in the next 3 months. And here's the thing is,
who's gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
Maybe elaborate a little bit on some of the misconceptions that are out there. You already kind of started, and Ashley guided you there, but can you talk a little bit about the factoring financing that so many people kind of throw up as an alternative to banking when they have bad credit or don't have the ability to get credit, or just, they don't even have the business or plan set in place to do it? Let's assume I just want to do janitorial work and I'm going to source that out to someone else, but I got to pay my janitors until I get paid, right? I'll just go to a factoring company. Is that true? What does that look like?
I mean, there are lots of alternatives, right? And I think it's like buyer be wary, because people tend to lean into the lending process at the beginning when their hair's on fire, when they are about to make payroll and they don't know that they can make payroll. And that's a big issue, right? Because part of being a business owner is that you are not only taking care of your own family, but you're taking care of the families of the employees that you're employing to do the work that you've won based off of a contract or whatever it is, right? And so there are lots of different options. And factoring, I think traditionally for many years, was the alternative that people were familiar with. It isn't the only alternative though. But with that being said, it's based off of the accounts receivables. And so that is after you've performed work and you've invoiced it and you've sent it and it's been approved. Then you can take that and sell it to a factoring company in order to pull cash forward. And it can be costly. It depends on who you're working with, because these are private service providers, right? So they base their rates based off of whatever they want, because it isn't federally regulated like the bank is. So it isn't a consistent standardized rate, because they're a privatized company, right? They are able to make their rates whatever they want. And so there's the differentiation there. But it's important to note that when you're doing that, there's nothing on the front end. So you've performed a bunch of work, and then your invoices have to be approved, and then you can utilize that and sell it and pull cash forward. What happens for all of that time that's passed before that all happens? Payrolls that have passed, the operating expenses that have accrued, all of that type of stuff that you haven't been able to pay because you had to wait until your invoice was approved to sell it and then have that money pulled forward. And so the best way to describe what invoice factoring is if you've got a hankering for pizza and you just want a slice, and you go into the pizza shop and they can't sell you a slice, they got to sell you the whole pie. So you're not only paying for more than you actually need, essentially, but then you're paying the tax or the fees on all of that extra pie that you're not going to eat, and it's going to potentially go to waste or just sit there and keep accruing fees on top of it. And so, a lot of people in certain industries, that's the only option they have. There are certain industries where they kind of are circulated out of the loop for whatever reason, whether it's, insurance purposes or surety bonds or whatever it is. It's making it more difficult for a certified lender to be able to lend to them. So they don't have a choice. Transportation is one of those industries that tends to have to rely on factoring. And so that's why I don't knock it. It's a business that works for certain industries, but you've got to be aware of what you're looking at when you walk into it, So if you've got $100,000 invoice and you go to a factoring company, they have an initial fee right off the top, discount fee. That's usually about 15 or 20%. So if you've got $100,000, it's going to go down to $85,000 to $80,000 that they're going to be able to push forward to you. So you sell $100,000 to get $85,000 to $80,000 in return for it. So you've paid $15,000 to $20,000 right up front. Then you're going to have legal fees and underwriting fees and utilization fees and unutilization fees and early termination fees that are all going to be compounded on top of that as well. So they may not be pulled out of the amount that they've given to you, but they're going to be fees that you're going to pay to have a continuous relationship there.
That makes sense.
On another, it is, for some, a necessary way of doing business, but it's extremely costly. It can be 25 to 75% in interest based off of whatever.
And here's the thing is the government has to pay in 30 days. So if you've gotten as far as the invoice acceptance, I mean, what's 30 more days?
And you and I both know that doesn't always happen either, right?
No, not always.
There are delays there. That it was progress payments and they were in the middle of an audit. So boom, now all payments stop until the audit is approved and resolved. And that took 6 months of coming out of pocket for a small business who obviously needed progress payments and needed monthly payments. So
and progress payments are paid a lot in the construction realm, which takes up a huge portion of what the allocation is out of the federal government right now with our infrastructure bill, right? So a lot of these general contractors and construction companies are reliant on these progress payments in order to keep that job going, and so they don't always get paid timely, or they will hire subcontractors. They'll get brought in as the prime, and they'll hire subcontractors that they trust that have zero financing capabilities, that are reliant to be paid even faster than that. And then them as the prime aren't getting, the funds that they need to be able to pass it down, that trickle down effect. And so it becomes a real bad, bottleneck of missed payments all the way down. And so,
and the subs don't get taken care of, it's almost like then they get stuck in shoddy payment terms because they're waiting on the prime to get paid. Well, the prime might've made a mistake on their invoice.
Correct.
So, they're just in this holding tank that's not fair. You're exploiting the subcontractor then. And that's just not good business.
Yep. And it's extremely difficult for the subcontractors to prove any of that is happening, if they even catch it, if they even know that that's actually what's happening, you know? And so there's a lot that goes on, because past performance is king, right? You want this work so that you can build it, and you want it to be, especially from a subcontracting level, you want it to be done with reputable primes that are able to vouch for your past performance experience, so that they can say, you know what, they were great, and you can take that to move to something else. But there's so much out of your control as a subcontractor, you know, the amount of work that you're given, the amount of time that you're given to perform that work, the amount of time that passes between payments to you as well, which will inhibit you to be able to pay the employees that are working on it. So there's a lot that goes into it. And it's a shame, because for what a lucrative industry it is, there is such a learning curve about understanding how to maneuver it. And some people try to jump too fully into just winning work, when you can outwin yourself out of business, because your relationships are going to give you the opportunities, but you might not have the ability to financially perform. You need to hire the best people, and maybe do it longer than you expected to do, and maybe do it through a delay, and maybe do it through different change orders, or whatever happens during it. And with a huge bulk of the industry being reliant on that construction side and the infrastructure side of things, it's hard for those types of businesses to break even when it comes to stuff like that. And it's heartbreaking. You know, I mean, I spend a lot of time referring businesses to outside resources, instead of like talking them through how, you know, a product that I could provide to them will do, because it isn't necessarily what they need right now. They need help learning how to run their business, so that they can take the work that they're winning and turn it into a profit, so that it can keep going into, you know, and I'm not doing it on my own. I mean, thankfully I stand on the shoulders of titans in the industry. We've been doing it forever. And so I'm like, hey, you need that? I know a guy, literally, you know, like, and it's not going to cost you anything. They're going to talk to you, because our company was literally put into business so that people didn't have to keep telling the horror stories of what it took to get from, you know, day one to 5 years down the road, or just profitability, period. Right? Like we just want to help you. And I think that there is a lot to be said for being able to extend yourself in that capacity.
Absolutely. You know, we spend a lot of our time acting as traffic directors, essentially, you know, leveraging our network and relationships. And folks come to us a lot. Hey, do you know someone who does this? Or, hey, can you help me with this? And I appreciate having that element of trust of our audience. So our communities are both fantastic. And I really appreciate your coming on to kind of talk to everybody and school them just about what to be wary of, and to take their books and their accounting process a little bit more seriously. You know, I have clients out here. There are folks trying to chase, for example, a landscaping contract, you know, but they don't want to go up the street to the office building and try to get that account. They want a government contract. And it's like, experience is experience. Build your revenue, diversify. The government is a fantastic customer. They pay well. They usually pay on time in most instances. However, get the experience under your belt. Get a little bit of that business acumen.
Yep.
And if you do need help, hit these ladies up. They're the finance girls. Me, not so much. I pay other people to do that for me.
Hey, I would recommend Natasha and yourself all day long with just being open to helping. And so, and the parallel expertise that you have that really intersects in the ability to be able to help people across the board, with Natasha's ability to help people on that cash flow and the CPA, CFO side of it, and yours being able to do even more so in that business planning and really looking towards that. I recommend you. And funny enough, the fact that we've connected with so many businesses mutually that probably are listening right now all across the country. I mean, Ashley, I think you and I connected for the first time through a business that's based in Hawaii. And I met them when I went out for the NHOA conference. So I think that
yes. So that's awesome. I remember that.
Yeah, it's just about be a good person and do the right thing.
And that's really what it is. Being in business isn't very much different from being a good human, right? Mm-hmm. And when you do good things, you get good things back.
That's right.
And sometimes that comes in the form of money. So,
I can't on the whole karma. Karma, what? I have this thing.
Yeah. My kids are probably listening in the back. If you ask my kids, it's the Taylor Swift line. Karma.
Well, ladies, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Teresa, for joining us. We really hope to have you back. Maybe we'll make this a quarterly thing if you'll have us.
Are you kidding me? Absolutely. I love it. And we need to drive, 45 miles to the middle, or I'll come to Tampa.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's have a meet in the middle. I think that'd be a good idea.
Everyone loves Lakeland, Florida.
She and I will carpool. Natasha, I'm riding with you.
Let's go.
I love this. I'll come back anytime. You let me know. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. And audience, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. Drop your comments in the chat, and we'll see you next Thursday. Same time, same place. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.